Live with clickorlando.com and streaming on News 6 Plus. This is News 6 Mornings at 6. Getting results.
Breaking news, Adalia, now a hurricane as it continues to move toward Florida and likely bringing impacts our way. We're pinpointing the new advisory just coming out.
From sandbags to shelters, preps underway in parts of Central Florida. A live update on areas where evacuations are recommended.
Thousands along the Gulf Coast being forced to evacuate. What the state is doing now to make it easier for families leaving their homes. Well, we do want to start with the latest on Adalia and the new track. Good Tuesday morning to Central Florida at 6 a.m. I'm Justin Warman.
I'm Crystal Moyer. Thanks for waking up with us.
I'm Bridget Ellison. Trooper Steve's watching your roads. Meteorologist Troy Bridges here with the new advisory.
Yeah, the latest track as of 5 o'clock this morning has shifted all of Central Florida out of the cone. But remember, we will have tropical storm force winds extending at least 160, possibly more miles from the center of that storm. So even if the center is offshore, and it will be away from Central Florida, at least we expect that heading into the early morning hours tomorrow, we will still have those tropical storm force wind gusts throughout the day tomorrow. This is quickly intensifying. As of 5 a.m. officially a hurricane, a category 1 with winds now at 75 miles per hour. But as it moves away from Cuba, it will have plenty of fuel. That very warm water in the 80s, near 90 degrees to strengthen this to a category 2 within the next few hours. Then a category 3, which is a major hurricane, heading into the early morning hours tomorrow as it approaches the Big Bend of Florida. Again, technically we are not in the cone, but we will definitely have those impacts. When would we first start to experience some of those tropical storm force wind gusts? Now that could happen in Polk County as well as Osceola County between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. today. Some of those gusts could be fairly strong with some squall lines that will move in. Between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. today, we will see the chance in Orange County, Lake County, southern Sumter County, into Volusia County, that chance for some winds up to 40 miles per hour or greater in gusts. And then also where you see the red shading between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., seeing that chance for tropical storm force winds for Marion County and for northern Sumter County. With more on the radar that we can expect in the future with those squall lines, let's go to meteorologist Michelle Morgan. And Michelle, that's going to be a real concern this afternoon, this evening, overnight, and through the day tomorrow with tornadoes.
Yeah, that's right, Troy. So let's go ahead and take a look at future radar here. So if you have any last-minute preparations to do, you're good this morning. We'll begin to see conditions deteriorate as we go through the afternoon hours. So putting things into play, we're looking at 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll begin to see those outer bands pushing into our area. We're talking about pockets of heavy rain. We could see localized flooding, but we'll see some dry slots again as that system gets closer to us. On and off rain through the 7, 8 o'clock hour in portions of Orange County, extending into Volusia County. Now we're at 10 o'clock. We're looking at that system well off to our west over the Gulf of Mexico, but as it continues to pull to the north, we'll begin to see that tropical moisture moving into the area as early as 5, even 6 o'clock in the morning. And look at our western zones. We're looking at Lake County extending into Seminole County, or Sumter County, excuse me, and Marion County, where we'll see those pockets of heavy rain moving through the area, and that's going to be continuous as we go through the morning hours. Again, this is Wednesday. As we go through later Wednesday morning, closer to noon, we are expecting that eye to make landfall somewhere along the Big Bend region, continuing to pull to the north and northeast, but a ton of tropical moisture will still remain over the area, folks, as we go through our Wednesday afternoon, so we're not finished with the rain yet. Also, tornadoes are definitely a concern as well, because within those outer bands, we'll see a few spin-ups as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the roads with Trooper Steve.
Trooper Steve's Pinpoint Traffic Report is brought to you by Napleton Automotive.
Thank you, Michelle. Man, I am glad our department here, the traffic department, we're doing pretty good this morning because our meteorologist is really focused right now. So roadways are good to go this morning. No major issues, no major shutdowns, and do not expect any construction or lane closures overnight tonight. What we will have is a lot of our first responders out there just making sure everything is okay. Our attractions pretty smooth this morning. No problems along I-4, 535 area. Even Dr. Phillips, good morning to you. Sand Lake, Apopka, Vineland in the clear. So we slide over here towards the New Independence area. DOT cam showing exactly just nice and clear from both 429 and New Independence. Guys, back to you.
Trooper Steve, thank you. As we've been telling you, Adalia could still move closer or farther away as it churns through the Gulf, but no matter what, at least parts of Central Florida will feel impacts.
And that has local leaders making sure everyone's prepared.
We have live team coverage for you this morning. Ezzy Castro will join us along the turnpike in moments, but we do want to start with Mark Lehman in Marion County. And Mark, shelters are opening there this morning.
Yes, and we're at one of 5 shelters that will be available for people who have concerns about the storm's impact. Some evacuations are being recommended as a warning is in effect for part of the county. Now, Things have been busy across Marion County as families have been filling sandbags at different locations. County leaders met yesterday morning to make sure they're ready. They say work started over the weekend clearing drains and prepping flood-prone areas. They're urging everyone to finalize their plans today, gathering supplies and getting things ready around the home. Out here at this shelter at Forest High School, it's one of the 5 that will be opening starting at 8 this morning. Sandbag sites will also be available again starting at 7 a.m. Meanwhile, we've been speaking with people about their concerns about Idalia as the storm gets closer to the area. We're going through that for our next report coming up at 6:30. For now, reporting live in Marion County, Mark Lehman, Getting Results, News 6.
Thank you so much, Mark. With Sumter County also under the hurricane warning, emergency officials are telling some people to consider evacuating. And that covers people in mobile and manufactured homes, along with those who live in low-lying and flood-prone areas. Now, it's not mandatory, but shelters will be opening this afternoon at the fairgrounds in Webster, along with the Wildwood Community Center. Officials are warning space will be limited.
They're not cruise ships, so we don't have a lot of accommodations for people. It's really just an emergency evacuation center for people to get out of the wind, and then if everything's fine, they go back home.
Sandbags will also be available again today for anyone who needs them.
Idalia's projected path over the Gulf is forcing thousands of people along Florida's west coast to evacuate. As families begin to leave their homes, state officials are making it easier by suspending the tolls on certain highways right now. Ezzy Castro continues team coverage now along the Turnpike in Sumter County. And Ezzy, more than half the state is under a state of emergency.
Yeah, so evacuations are underway for thousands along the Gulf Coast, and because of that, the governor suspended tolls for part of the state. Yesterday, residents along the West Coast were seen gassing up and loading their cars with sandbags and hurricane supplies. Here in Sumter County, emergency officials say their top concerns with the storm are the threats of tornadoes, power outages, and potential flooding. Now, back out here live, the governor did mention that the U.S. Coast Guard is also preparing their helicopters for search and rescue missions, and also the National Guard has been mobilized. For now, live in Sumter County, Ezzy Castro, Getting Results, News 6.
Seminole County leaders say they do not plan to open shelters as of now, but they're ready just in case.
We're going to be looking at it. We're going to be closely watching it. And if we need to pull those plans and operationalize those plans tomorrow morning, we'll be able to easily do that.
Emergency Manager Alan Harris says thousands of sandbags were given out over the weekend. They're available at 8 locations countywide. You can find the full list across our area on the homepage of clickorlando.com.
And leaders in Osceola County say they've surveyed areas flooded out during last year's hurricanes, and they're not expecting a repeat. Hundreds of people were displaced after Ian brought record rainfall, causing lakes and rivers to overflow. This time, though, the county is only expecting a couple inches of rain and say waterways have the capacity to handle it. The county's not planning on opening any shelters, but is urging people to prepare for tropical storm force wind gusts and the possibility of an isolated tornado.
And with the new advisory coming out, meteorologist Troy Bridges has an update on the path and that storm that's strengthening.
I do want to stress, like you just mentioned, Bridget, about Ian. A lot of people comparing this to Ian. This will not be the same scenario. This thing's going to move a lot faster. Remember, we also had Nicole behind Ian that brought more flooding to Central Florida, brought those big issues along the coast. Even a house fell into the ocean. This will not be the same setup because it's moving quickly up and away by the end of Wednesday. We'll still see some wraparound rain on Thursday, but here is the strengthening system as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. That very warm water, the fuel to strengthen this to a Category 3. Now, technically, all of Central Florida now, as of the 5 a.m. advisory, no longer in the cone. But when you talk about a major Category 3 making landfall in the Big Bend of Florida, that is close enough to us that we will have tropical storm force winds. So our biggest concern is going to be that wind threat, as well as those squall lines that move in that could have some isolated tornadoes in them as early as this late afternoon and evening. So here you go, by 7 in the morning on Wednesday, tropical storm force winds for Lake Sumter, Marion counties, also for western Orange County, large part of Central Florida where you see the yellow. We'll see that chance for tropical storm force winds through the day on Wednesday. But by Wednesday, 8 p.m., we push most of that system out, and then we have the wraparound ground moisture. So for today, there is a threat for severe weather where you see the yellow shading. That's the enhanced threat that's technically called a slight risk, but that's a 2 on a scale between 1 and 5, and that does mean we could have a moderate risk of tornadoes. Of course, the main threats would be heavy rain, lightning, and those strong wind gusts. We're going to show you future radar and take you county by county with those impacts straight ahead. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Troy. 6:11 coming up. Idalia forcing thousands of evacuations in Cuba.
A new look at rough conditions on the island.
Plus, major concerns surrounding Florida's struggling property insurance industry. New comments from state officials working to reassure homeowners.
But first, victims of Hurricane Ian preparing for more storm impacts. Reaction from Southwest Florida, where many are still trying to rebuild.
When you're faced with severe weather, stay protected with the new 6 Pinpoint Weather app. Powered by the most experienced weather team in Central Florida. Get severe weather alerts, check what's coming your way with interactive Futurecast, and know when storms are leaving your area down to the minute with our Storm Tracker radar. Keep your family safe with the power of Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells and the Pinpoint Weather Team at your fingertips. Download the new 6 Pinpoint Weather app now and get results.
Ding Dong Ditch. It's supposed to be a harmless prank, but be warned. Next in Sun Edition.
Tonight at 7:30 on News 6. Live with Bridget Ellison, Justin Warmoth, Crystal Moyer, meteorologist Troy Bridges, and your traffic safety expert, Trooper Steve. This is News 6 Mornings, getting results.
If you're just waking up with us, good morning. Idalia, now a hurricane. It's still forecast to be a major Category 3 when it makes landfall on the Gulf Coast tomorrow. Meteorologist Troy Bridges and Michelle Morgan in the house. They're going to have some pinpoint projections on the path and, of course, the potential impacts in Central Florida. And the storm is leading to serious concerns among people along the southwest Florida coast.
Yeah, many are still trying to recover after Hurricane Ian devastated the region less than a year ago.
That's right. Homeowners are doing what they can to be ready, including filling sandbags. Some homes, though, are still damaged from Ian. People living in Charlotte County say they're not taking any chances. The threat of Idalia forcing United Launch Alliance to call off this morning's planned rocket launch. An Atlas V rocket was set to carry a payload for the U.S. Space Force into orbit. So far, ULA has not announced a new launch time, but we kind of saw that one coming.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, not a surprise there. All right, so really, Troy, as we continue to wait for this thing to really intensify, it's going through, I mean, you've called it jet fuel.
Yeah,
we're going to really see it.
Well, it was overnight interacting with land in western Cuba, and anytime a system moves over land, it sort of tears it apart or keeps it from strengthening. Now it's moving into an area where there is no land, the Gulf of Mexico, before it reaches Florida. So that is the jet fuel that I've been talking about. These water temperatures it's just now moving into close to 90 degrees. So that is what's going to strengthen it. That's the fuel that these storms need to fire up and to get that strength and to get that organization. So we're going to begin to see this become well organized as we head into the next few hours, and I would expect it to become a Category 2 hurricane within the next several hours and then quickly becoming a Category 3.
So here's a look at your hour-by-hour forecast.
Sponsored by Strata Air Conditioning and Heating. AC emergency? You ought to call Strata.
Temperatures are steady in the upper 70s as we go through majority of the morning. We're in the lower 80s around 9. Plenty of clouds, and notice our rain chance is beginning to go up. I do think temperatures will be near average today in the lower 90s, but as we see that tropical moisture push in this afternoon, the rain will get heavy, and again, conditions will deteriorate as we go through the overnight hours. Here's a look at your 7-day. Alrighty, so we're looking at temperatures in the lower 90s today, upper 80s tomorrow, that tropical rain over the area. And then as we head into our Thursday, lingering showers and storms are possible with temperatures in the lower 90s, and the weekend forecast looking like your typical summertime setup. Here's a look at the roads with Trooper Steve.
Thank you, Michelle. Things not too bad out there. Even Sky 6 still up there. I can tell you right now, they will not be here this afternoon or tomorrow with all that heavy rain. Right now, they are flying westbound. I know it's dark out there, but the traffic pattern, I see it. It's this is Celebration area. As we're flying westbound along I-4 approaching this area, no major delays just yet. DOT cam showing that we're pretty good across Central Florida. This is downtown Orlando, right here at I-4 and State Road 50 OBT area right within those travel lanes. Right now, eastbound, pretty good. That marker on my screen, that's the closure on Orange Avenue. We know about that. A little further east, Forsyth, Goldenrod, even 436 east and west on University. If you're headed towards UCF this morning, no problem. And then Seminole County northbound on 434, Alafage. Trail as you cross over Chapman, approaching the Oviedo area. No problems. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Trooper Steve. As Idalia approaches Florida, our area could start seeing evacuations.
At the bottom of the hour, where officials are already recommending people leave their homes.
First, though, breaking new details on a deadly double shooting in Orlando. What police just told us about the accused killer. Up next.
People sometimes aren't as sensitive. I trust Channel 6. You're the only news reporter I allowed into our home.
Breaking overnight, Orlando police say the suspect in the shooting deaths of a man and woman is dead. The victims' bodies were found just before 7 a.m. yesterday along Azola Street off Shader Road near John Young Parkway. Police said both victims died at the scene. Investigators say the suspect took his own life and they're not looking for anyone else.
All roads that were forced to close because of unstable scaffolding in downtown Orlando are back open now. Portions of Orange Avenue, Church Street, and Pine Street shut down earlier this month while crews worked on removing scaffolding, forcing several businesses in the area to shut down.
New this morning, district leaders in Flagler County confirmed tonight's planned community forum in the aftermath of a controversial school assembly is being pushed back. Interim Superintendent Lakeisha Moore scheduled the talks after Black 4th and 5th graders at Bunnell Elementary were pulled out of class earlier this month. They were shown statistics telling them their scores were too low and that they had to commit to doing better. Moore says the threat of Idalia is forcing the district to reschedule the forum. No new date has been announced.
Still to come, we continue our live team coverage on Idalia, which is now a hurricane.
The Pinpoint Weather Team back in minutes with a look at the storm's projected path.
Watch Ginger Gadsden on Florida's 4th Estate, Mondays and Fridays at 5:30. Live, this is News 6 Mornings, getting results.
Breaking this morning, Idalia strengthens into a hurricane as it continues its path towards Florida. What the new projected path will mean for our impacts.
Plus, people across Central Florida preparing for Idalia's arrival. The county's now under a state of emergency.
And thousands of people along the Gulf Coast have been ordered to evacuate. The message from the governor about how far those asked to leave should go. Good morning, Central Florida. It's 6:30. I'm Bridget Ellison.
I'm Crystal Moyer. Thanks for staying with us on this Tuesday.
I'm Justin Mormouth, and we have team coverage on Idalia with meteorologist Troy Bridges and Michelle Morgan. Let's start with Troy and the very latest on the storm's path.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, the 5 a.m. advisory did shift all of Central Florida out of the cone technically, but it is still going to be a major Category 3 hurricane at landfall sometime in the early morning hours tomorrow. Now that it's moving away from that landmass of Cuba, it has plenty of fuel, that warm water, to strengthen even more, and we're seeing signs of that as it continues to move to the north into those very warm waters. Now, keep in mind, the farther inland or the farther north it goes, closer to shore, we've got a lot of very shallow water, and that's why we're expecting what we call rapid intensification, as this will likely be a major Category 3 at landfall in the Big Bend area, even though the cone does have us outside, even Marion County now outside of the cone. This could shift, but if this were to be the case, this scenario, we would still see tropical storm force winds extend all the way into areas like Orlando, all the way into central Volusia County. Even late today, we'll see some of those tropical storm force gusts moving in. So what's the timeline for that? Here you go. Between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., where you see the green shading, that's going to be Polk County as well as Osceola County, seeing the chance for tropical storm force wind gusts, at least. We're not talking about sustained winds yet, but that's 40-mile-per-hour winds or greater. And then 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. central zones, including Lake County, Orange County, Seminole County, Volusia County, a large part of Brevard County, and then you see between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Marion County and Sumter County. So the counties we're seeing the greatest concern would be Marion County, Lake County, and Sumter County through the day today, but especially early in the morning tomorrow. Isolated tornadoes can't be ruled out. Winds up to 60 miles per hour sustained or greater, with some gusts near 74 or higher. And then for Seminole County, Orange County, seeing the rain totals up to about 4 inches. We could see those winds in parts of Osceola County and Polk County up to 40 miles per hour or greater. And also that storm surge, a concern along our coast between 1 and 2 feet with a few tornadoes possible. Let's check in with meteorologist Michelle Morgan with more on those county. Actually, I did the county by county impacts. You're going to take us county by county with the future radar.
Yeah, that's right. We'll take a look at that. But here's a look at the storm right now. Hurricane Idalia. Taking a look at the satellite and radar, we're starting to see some clouds pushing from the systems, but look at the outer bands extending from the system. A ton of tropical moisture as it slowly moves into the southeastern Gulf this morning. Now, as we take a look at future radar, so if you have any last-minute preparations to do, you're good to go this morning. We'll begin to see conditions deteriorate as we go through the afternoon and certainly during the overnight hours. So as we take a look at future radar here, we're looking at the 4 or 5 o'clock time frame. We'll begin to see those outer bands push in, squally weather, definitely heavy downpours in a few spots, and that'll continue as we go through the evening hours. Now look at this. As we go through early Wednesday morning, we'll see Idalia well to our west. You could see that eye, but notice all of that rain over central Florida, so localized flooding certainly possible as we go through early Wednesday morning, and that'll continue at least through noon. And right now we are thinking that landfall along the Big Bend region as early as 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. So as we go through Wednesday afternoon, we'll continue to see those bands move over, pockets of heavy rain, and things may linger as we go into our Thursday morning. So let's go ahead and take a look at the roads with Trooper Steve.
Trooper Steve's Pinpoint Traffic Report is brought to you by Napleton Automotive.
Thank you, Michelle. Sky 6 just turned the camera around. They're going to beeline straight to 436 in Bear Lake. Report of a crash. Don't have it on my map. They told me about it. So once they get on scene, we will have some information and see what's going on out there. The rest of us not too bad. I-4 still looking good. East and westbound. Listen, no matter where you're at, if you're coming in from Volusia, you're good. Seminole, Orange, and Osceola County, all our lanes are flowing nicely. There's no major construction. And then tonight, do expect all that construction to be suspended. 417 north and southbound out here in Seminole. We're around the 43 mile marker. As you're headed northbound, approaching Sanford area, Reinhardt exit, all clear. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Trooper Steve. Right now, final preparations are underway as parts of Florida brace for a direct hit from Hurricane Idalia. Yesterday, the governor expanded the state of emergency to include most of Central Florida. And while on the current track, we'll be spared the worst of the storm. That does not mean we won't see impact. We have team coverage this morning, starting with Mark Lehman live in Marion County, and several shelters are opening up this morning, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Lake County is also under a state of emergency as officials warn winds could reach tropical storm strength by this time tomorrow.
So we're being told that to prepare for strong tropical storm force winds throughout the county. So that's anywhere between 30 to 40 miles per hour at this point, with gusts up to 50 to 60 miles per hour.
Officials say they're watching the levels of the St. Johns River as the storm approaches, but they say the river is currently well under its action stage. Still, we saw several people yesterday filling sandbags just in case.
As he thinks, in Volusia County, a voluntary evacuation has been recommended for some residents starting at 10 a.m. Officials are urging those who live in RVs, mobile homes, and low-lying areas find somewhere else to stay. Shelters will be opening this morning at 10 at the county fairgrounds, Hester Building, and the Florida Department of Health on Holzenbach Drive. Officials in Flagler County are warning people to be prepared for tropical storm force winds, potentially over 50 miles per hour, as well as some minor coastal flooding. County leaders say evacuations may be required this afternoon for those in mobile homes and RVs. In anticipation of the storm, Sunrail is suspending its service starting today, and crews are expected to begin securing railroad gates and moving any equipment that could pose a hazard. Sunrail says it will resume service after the storm, and crews have had the chance to inspect the entire corridor for any possible damage.
All right, it's 6:40. Let's get over to meteorologist Troy Bridges now. And Troy, when should we expect the worst of Idalia?
I would say tomorrow morning by about 6, 7 on into 8 o'clock as we see this possible and likely Category 3 hurricane just off the coast by about 100 miles or so from our center when we talk about this. Let me explain. The center of circulation as a Category 3 hurricane, look at this. If it's where the model here is putting it, imagine extending out 160 miles from that center, tropical storm force winds. Okay, right now that's the case. So as this gets closer to us, it will strengthen in that shallow water, and there's the chance that we could see those tropical storm force winds extend even farther out. So with this scenario, by 8 in the morning tomorrow, we would have tropical storm force winds moving all the way over almost to the coast of Volusia County, almost to Daytona Beach, certainly into downtown Orlando, and certainly into a good bit of Osceola County, could even go all the way to Brevard. Bottom line is that's 40 miles per hour or greater. Now let me show you where the storm is right now. Again, moving out of that land area near western Cuba where it's had some interaction interaction with land to keep it at tropical storm status overnight. Now that it's moving away from that land into that very warm water, that's the fuel to strengthen this quick.
Thanks, Troy. 642. Trooper Steve will join us in just a few minutes to answer one of the questions you sent in.
And with the storm coming up and what you need to do if you find yourself in floodwaters.
Plus, breaking overnight a deadly crash in Lake County. The answers we're working to get from troopers ahead.
This portion of the news is sponsored by the new Epic Pepperoni Stuffed Crust Pizza, only at Papa John's.
I've never entered a contest before, and my name was #1 on the list.
You're a winner today.
I am.
All right, it's time for Ask Trooper Steve, where we answer the questions you send in. And Steve, today we're talking about something that's preventable, and that's getting stuck in floodwaters.
Yes, absolutely, and it's pretty timely. So this is what we're talking about. The question is, all right, what do I do if I find myself in a flooded roadway? First and foremost, do not panic. That is the #1 thing I tell people. You cannot panic in a situation like this. And then I'm going to throw this out there because it seems people are confused. You're going to get wet. Okay, period. You're going to get wet. There's going to be a lot of water inside your vehicle, and it gets people freaked out. Yeah. So you do not want to panic and stuff like this. This is another thing I'm going to tell you to purchase. I'm not going to tell you a brand because there's so many different, but this is an emergency safety tool for your vehicle. It has a window punch on it that you would slam on your window, and I'm telling you, this stuff works. A lot of people look at it, and they're like, that's going to break the window? It will break your window. And then, of course, a seatbelt cutter. So you're going to end up in the water, right? And if it's like this, you're kind of in good shape. Yeah. But if your vehicle becomes submerged, understand that the water's going to rush into your vehicle. You're going to want this to happen because it's going to equalize the pressure. At that point, you're going to be able to slowly open your doors. You're going to want to be able to get your seatbelt off. Why are we remaining calm? Because each one of these steps takes something to happen here, and with all that panic going on, you may forget some of that. Keep in mind, try to roll your windows down before you get into that water if you see it happening, because then the doors will be easier to open.
Some good tips there. Thank you, Steve. If you have a question for Trooper Steve, let him know on our website. Just head to clickorlando.com/AskTrooperSteve.
Breaking overnight, troopers in Lake County are investigating a deadly crash near Claremont. This is video from the scene along US 192 at Town Center Boulevard. You can see a car in the middle of the road with damage to the hood. At this point, troopers have not said exactly what happened, only that at least one person died.
With Idalia making its way closer to Florida, FPL is making its final preparations ahead of the storm. Crews were out trimming trees in hopes of preventing limbs from falling on power lines. They're also pre-positioning hundreds of crew members and equipment so they can quickly respond to any outages. OUC says it's also getting ready. The utility released this video yesterday showing crews preparing power trucks ahead of the storm.
And we need them.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
And this
we
is
appreciate
also
them.
a good reminder for those who might have some maybe lawn chairs or tables out in the backyard with those wind gusts to bring it inside.
I have some fake trees on each side of my door. Got to take them in.
That's right.
Do it today when I run home real quick and come right back in here. Now, we are talking about the very latest on this. This is still a Category 1, barely a Category 1, but soon to be a Category 2 because of that fuel that we're talking about. If you don't know, what really fuels these storms is when they're away from land, because land can kind of keep them breaking up and kind of broken apart. But once they move away from land, these systems, and they get into that warm ocean water, that's what fuels them. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Now, remember, all day yesterday and overnight, it was a tropical storm because it was interacting a little bit with land here in the western side of Cuba. Now that it's moving away and into those warm waters of the Gulf, it will strengthen to a Category 2 within the next few hours, and then quickly becoming a Category 3, which is a major hurricane making landfall in the early morning hours tomorrow in the Big Bend area. Now, as of 5 a.m., this official track does keep all of Central Florida technically out of the cone, but we are seeing winds, tropical storm force winds, already extending 160 miles from the center. So as it gets stronger, we'll see that line of strong tropical storm force winds extend even farther. So we could see more of those tropical storm force winds gusting, at least for part Brevard County even, as we get into the early morning hours tomorrow. Here's more of the timeline, though. This afternoon, that squally weather, we're going to show you the future radar straight ahead, and you'll see a lot of those squall lines with the chance for rotating cells moving in and out and back in again. And then tonight into early tomorrow, those gusty winds, again, tropical storm force for a large part of Central Florida. And then late Wednesday, we begin to clear out. So this is the probability of tropical storm force winds. Look at these percentages here. These are going to be the probabilities that you will see tropical storm force winds in your area, and that is 40 miles per hour or greater Where you're seeing the deeper purple, of course, that's going to be areas along the immediate coast of the Big Bend area, but farther inland into Sumter County and areas of Lake County, also Marion County, seeing those greater chances for tropical storm force winds as we head into 9 o'clock in the morning. With more on the future radar, showing you the rain hour by hour, let's bring in meteorologist Michelle Morgan.
Thanks so much, Troy. So that's right. Let's go ahead and time things out here slowly. If you have any last-minute preparations to do this morning, you're good to go. We'll see a few isolated showers, some storms, but as we go through the afternoon hours, that's when we'll begin to see conditions deteriorate. So as we take a look at future radar here, starting the clock at 4 o'clock today, we'll begin to see those outer bands pushing into Polk County, Marion County, pockets of heavy rain. We'll see a few breaks from the rain, but again, when we're looking at all of this moisture that will be pushing our way during the overnight hours, localized flooding is likely. Now we're into tonight. We're looking at some showers, a few thunderstorms now reaching our coastal spots, Volusia County, also Flagler County. But look at this. As we head into the overnight hours, we have that eye parallel to the Gulf Coast, and we're seeing all of those outer bands reaching our area, tropical storm force winds, heavy rain through majority of tomorrow morning, and that'll continue as we get closer to noon. Lingering showers, storms through Wednesday afternoon. So again, flooding definitely a threat, and also to mention, as we see those outer bands move into our area, tornadoes, a few spin-ups are certainly possible. So keep that in mind. Now we're going through Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We'll continue to see that tropical moisture stay over our area, and then we'll begin to see things get a little bit better as we go through our Thursday afternoon. So I do want to show you your hour-by-hour forecast here.
Your forecast is sponsored by Advent Health.
Alrighty, so as I mentioned before, that tropical moisture moving in this afternoon, temperatures staying steady in the lower 80s around 9, only calling for a 20 to 30% coverage for that. But look at this, as we get closer to the 1, 2 o'clock hour, calling for a 90% and temperatures then in the lower 90s. Now taking a look at your 7-day forecast. With temperatures climbing into the lower 90s today, 90% coverage for showers and storms. Same deal as we head into tomorrow, but because of the rain and the clouds, it's going to keep our temperatures in the upper 80s. Now it's time to take a look at the roads with Trooper Steve.
Thank you, Michelle. Sky 6 is over that crash that I spoke about just a little bit ago. This is surprised they opened the roadway up because you've got crashes on both sides. This is going to be westbound 436 right here at Bear Lake. So you've got Seminole County Sheriff's Office in the left travel lane out there, 2-vehicle crash, and then 1 out there on the shoulder. They are allowing you to travel in the center travel lane westbound along 436. My map was purple. They have opened it back up. So we're just west here of Forest City, just before Balmy Beach Drive, right there at Hunt Club Boulevard. I've named about 4 different roads, so you should know exactly where this is. Just make sure you're paying attention. You're going to see lights on both shoulders. Downtown still looking pretty nice this morning. No reported issues, at least for now, along I-4. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Trooper Steve. It's 6:52. Mother Nature getting in the way of a planned rocket launch from our coast.
What ULA is saying about its decision and when they could try again.
First, though, all eyes on Adalia as the storm barrels its way closer to Florida. How our local counties are preparing. Next, as we check our big stories.
You deserve to hear the best. That's why News 6 has partnered up with Mix 105.1. Listen to your pinpoint weather updates on Mix 105.1 while we pinpoint your weather on the go. Some teams are just better together.
6:55. If you're headed out, let's check on our big stories, including updates on Adalia. As of 5 a.m., the storm is a hurricane. It's still on track to make landfall on the Gulf Coast as a powerful Category 3.
And while Central Florida shouldn't get a direct hit, many areas will see tropical storm force wind gusts. Emergency workers in Marion, Sumter, and Volusia counties are recommending people in mobile homes to evacuate.
And those evacuations are mandatory for thousands living along the Gulf Coast. Governor DeSantis has suspended tolls on several roads and says power crews and fuel are being mobilized for the hardest hit areas. Some local school districts making the decision to close.
Ahead, a special extended edition of News 6 Mornings continues, which students have today off and who will still need to head to class.
Plus, while the west coast of the state is dealing with Adalia, it's another storm causing issues along the east side of Florida. How Franklin's making for dangerous conditions at the beach.
Don't miss out on exclusive News 6 content. Become a News 6 insider. Visit clickorlando.com/insider to sign up. Live with clickorlando.com and streaming on News 6 Plus. This is News 6 at 7 a.m. Getting results.
Breaking news, Idalia now a hurricane as it continues to move toward Florida and likely bringing impacts our way. We're pinpointing the advisory and the track out this morning.
From sandbags to shelters, preps underway in parts of Central Florida. A live update on areas where evacuations are recommended.
And thousands along the Gulf Coast are being forced to evacuate. What the state is doing now to make it easier for families leaving their homes. But we start with the very latest on Idalia and the new track. It is 7 a.m. Thanks for staying with us for this extended edition of News 6 Mornings. I'm Justin Mormon.
I'm Crystal Moyer. Thanks for waking up with us.
I'm Bridget Ellison. Trooper Steve's watching your roads. Meteorologist Troy Bridges here with the latest.